Well, Satan has been bound in the sense that under the old covenant, the gospel was more or less confined to the Jews. There were occasional proselytes, but they were occasional. But in the ministry of Christ and the ministry of the 70, when they come back from that mission of theirs, I saw Satan fall from heaven like lightning. So an aspect of Satan's control over the world was affected by the ministry of Christ and by the death and resurrection of Christ in the day of Pentecost, would suggest that now the gospel is to be preached in all the world. But he is still referred to as the prince and power of the air. He still has power. Maybe not as much power as he did under the old covenant, but he still has power. He's still to be reckoned with. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. I mean, C.S. Lewis said somewhere in Screwtape Letters, possibly, that you can make too much of the devil, but you can also make too little of him. He hasn't yet been cast into the bottomless pit that the book of Revelation speaks of in chapter 20. So he is very much to be reckoned with, even in the new covenant.
But I think we have to be, I certainly agree, but we have to be very clear. Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords now. And I think Lewis is exactly right. We can't make too much or too little. On the too much side, sometimes we talk about Satan almost as if he were a minor god. He's a finite creature, which I think means, now I'm only a church historian, a humble church historian, but I think that means he can't be everywhere at once. He can't be the Holy Spirit. And so he has all these minions who serve him, but we almost talk sometimes as if there's the holy God and then there's the evil God, Satan. Satan is not God. He's a finite creature. He's limited by his finitude as well as by God's sovereignty. And so he is a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour, but he's chump change compared to the sovereign God. He has been defeated and he will be destroyed, and our calling is not to let him destroy us before he's destroyed.
We all try and put things and answers to questions saying the same thing in different ways. And I think two things I've found helpful in this context are, one, what Bob has alluded to, Matthew 28, 18 to 20. That what Jesus is saying in Matthew 28, 18 to 20 is that as the second man and the last Adam, he has won back the dominion on earth that Adam lost. Adam lost his dominion. He fell to the tempter. Christ has overcome the tempter so that he now says, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. Now, we instinctively think, well, he's the Son of God. All authority in heaven and earth is his. But he is speaking in a particular context here of saying that now the dominion that Satan won in the Garden of Eden has been overthrown, and that authority is now his. And the second thing is to pick up what Derek said and to remember, I think, in the limiting context of the expression about the binding of Satan is, as Derek said, so that he would no longer deceive the nations. So it's not just a general statement, Satan is bound, but that Satan is bound in this particular respect, that until the resurrection of Christ and the sending of the Holy Spirit, the coming of the last days, Satan was deceiving all of the nations except the one nation that God was undeceiving in his mercy. And that what is actually happening on the day of Pentecost in the crowd that gathers, that is analogous to the crowd that gathered in order to build the Tower of Babel and to pull God down, and God judged the nations, committed them to the deception of Satan, is that now from the day of Pentecost onwards, symbolized in the gatherings of the people and now experienced for 2,000 years, is that the nations are being undeceived by the preaching of the gospel. And I mean, that's just another way of saying, we always need to look at the context in which phrases are used so that we don't just see a phrase and then make up ourselves what it means, when the scriptures are in very specific ways helping us to see these statements within a particular grid and context, so that when the scriptures say that he is the God of this age, we realize that those who are not Christians are living in this age, whereas the end of the ages has dawned on us, and what the preaching of the gospel does is continues to invade this age to bring people into the new age, and that this will continue until the Lord comes. And then comes the end. Whatever your eschatology, then comes the end.